Hello, BookTube. Welcome to the Stevestream. Let's hope it doesn't fail. I thought I would do three quick house cleaning things at the beginning of the video. First, of course, is your glimpse of Frida. She's relatively peacefully sleeping. Relatively so. We've had a very active day. It's been very bright and clear. Not as warm as I would like, but probably perfect for her. So we've been out and about a lot, run across a lot of her neighborhood friends. I would like to call them her friends. She's not really friendly with them. they they seem fond of her. She met quite a few of those today. That's thing number one. And then thing number two is uh, minor, but I thought I would alert you to it anyway. A while ago, a month ago or so, my Twitter account was hacked and then lobotomized and then nuked. Uh, all happened in the course of a week. There was a massive data breach for a whole bunch of connected websites. Twitter was one of them, so I'm assuming that's what happened. Uh, I'm trying not to draw any conspiracy theory paranoid links between the nuking of my channel and the last tweet that I made, which was at added Elon Musk and was pretty harsh. So I'm going to try to assume that he does not. If he's got 10 people working for him in a company that's losing billions of dollars a year, he probably doesn't have the time to chase down and nuke every account that's negative towards him. But of course, that went away. I had a backup account that was minor, but I that went away. I didn't feel like using the backup account, so I just didn't use Twitter. uh, for all this time in between then and now. I was using it mainly at the end. I was, despite the catcalling to Elon Musk, I was mainly using it just to promote open letters review pieces there. It's a wonderful place to, at the publisher, at the author, let them know the review is out there. It's a wonderful way to do that. And I just wasn't doing that for this time. But I decided, I kind of thought this even a month ago when David Murphy was here, and I've been thinking about it ever since. That it's I do want social media accounts. I may have overinvested, and also I naturally don't like the idea of slowly building up an account and then having it evaporate. Although it could happen to anybody. Uh, so I decided to to go back to Twitter, and I thought in for a penny, in for a pound, and reactivated a Facebook account. I made a new Facebook account. Uh, that again, Twitter and Facebook, I will be using to promote reviews. Maybe the occasional literary thought or even a political thought here and there, but mostly just to promote reviews. Uh, but both the backup Twitter account and the new Facebook account are a little lonely. They're a little lonely. I go there, but I'm subscribed to all the publishing houses and whatnot. But it'd be nice if they were a little more active. So I wanted to point out to you that in the info section of the videos that I posted today, there's always an info block, where you can find open letters, where I am on Instagram, so you can see pictures of Frida. Uh, my email account, of course, so that you can email me about anything that's on your mind at any time. But in that description block today of today's videos, I include, as far as I can tell, uh, finding markers for you to find me on Twitter and Facebook. So feel free to do that if you want to. Feel free to do that. That would make it feel a little bit less lonely. And bulletin update number three involves writing, and you're going to see this coming a mile away. I have abandoned Sailor's Ease. I've abandoned my Camp NaNoWriMo project. I think that was obvious a week ago. I have abandoned it, and I abandoned it in such a defeated way, just slinking away from this project, that I didn't even really think about starting a substitute project. I didn't really think about anything like that. I am losing. I have lost Camp NaNoWriMo for April 2024. I'm gonna go to the site maybe later tonight or tomorrow and just announce that the project is over. I didn't finish it. That's all there is to it. It works on paper. It what works at the beginning, the middle, and the end. The characters, the arc, all of it works just as thoroughly, just as cleanly As for instance, my last writing project, The Trials of Esther, it works just as cleanly as that, but it was lifeless, just lifeless. I went to it every day, and it felt like digging a ditch. And I thought, okay, well, maybe you're just in a dry patch and you just need to dig in a ditch for a while. You're the first advocate of that in other people. So dig in a ditch for a while and see. But after a while, after a week, no, no, it's a dead project. I don't know if it'll be alive at some other time. There's nothing wrong with it structurally, but I abandoned it. So I wanted to make sure to give you an update on that. April has a week, a little bit more than a week to go. Uh, and then I'll just have to decide. I I, I don't want to give up on writing fiction because when it works, when it isn't a dead project, I really love the feeling. I just think for some reason, however, whatever it is, I didn't pick the right project for Camp NaNoWriMo. So I'm thinking of reviving the Steve Donahue Writing Collective for the whole of the summer. The whole of the summer exists without a NaNoWriMo project. The next Camp NaNoWriMo is until the end of the summer. So that's a long time. Uh, and I uh, I once upon a time, years and years and years ago, I don't know, it probably still doesn't exist. The strip cover lit guys had a booktube channel, and years ago, probably 7 years ago, they created a summer reading event, the Hot and Sticky Summer Novel Writing Challenge. And I'm always up for the superstructure of any kind of collective writing. I never thought of making one myself until this year, but I'm always up for it. So I joined that and I wrote a project for that called Hers the Incursion that I loved. The more I think about that, the more I think back on it, the more I remember how much I enjoyed doing that. So there's a kind of precedence and it's kind of positive. So I might revive the Steve Donahue Writing Collective and just do a writing project for the whole of the summer. But I wanted to let you know, those of you who've been emailing and asking, uh, it, there isn't any more progress on Sailor's Ease. There isn't any more project on Camp NaNoWriMo. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to just grind this project to a conclusion. I did all sorts of compromises with myself. At first, I thought about the normal arc, and I for Camp NaNoWriMo, I keep myself to the structure of the actual NaNoWriMo, which is 1,667 words a day to get to 50,000 words. I keep myself on that arc, and so on the first of the month, I planned the arc of the work and the time necessary to get all the way to the end of that. And then, well, you saw I made videos on the subject. A week in, I could already feel my keel scraping the coral. I could already feel that this was not a living project, but I thought maybe it would come alive. So I just kept going. And when I would skip a few days, because I just didn't feel like doing this work, it's not that I didn't have the discipline, I just didn't feel like doing it. When I would skip a few days, I would take that parabola of work and shorten it. I'd say, all right, well, here's what I need to do to still bring this to the end at the end of Camp NaNoWriMo, even though I've missed a few days. Shorten the word count, simplify the story just a bit, get rid of a few digressions here and there. And then after a while, I realized, no, you're not even going to bother to do that. No, I'm afraid not. No. So that's all over with. I just wanted to make that announcement for you. So those are the three announcements. One, the bean is just fine. She's just fine. She is adjusting well to her new harness. And I wish that she were more affectionate. These dogs all like her. Her friends all like her in the neighborhood. Walter and Boris, and especially Mowgli, they all like her. They're all confused by the fact that she doesn't like them back, but she doesn't like them back. So there was that, and there was social media. I have created a new Twitter account and a new Facebook account. If you are on those social media and you feel like being in touch with me there, feel free to go to the videos that I made today should point you in the direction. I'm thinking that they point you in the right direction. I'm not 100% sure. I'll keep using them. In a way, the size of the number of people who know that I'm there or who see any post of mine isn't all that important if I'm only using the site for promoting videos or promoting book reviews, because there you're telling the publisher, you're adding them and they're seeing that. So it doesn't really matter if you have 30 followers or 3,000 followers or 30,000 followers. It's not the same thing. as needing an audience on social media, which a lot of people on social media need. I don't need that. So, I'm not telling you about these accounts in order to boost my following. I'm just wanting to let you know that I am there and that sooner or later, I'm thinking this weekend I will probably be back in the swing of it. I will be posting regularly there. The one social media site that has been grievously neglected, those two haven't been neglected, they just haven't existed. The one that's been neglected is Goodreads, and I mean to fix that as well by linking to everything bookish that I do, including another habit that I started with the beginning of the year, and then I lapsed on it a bit, which is that in addition to writing new reviews that I link on places like Goodreads, I will also go into the enormous back catalog of reviews that I have on stevedonahue.com, clean them up because they were mass ported over. So all the picture links were broken and all the paragraph breaks were broken. I have to go into each one of them, clean it up, put call words on it and reference words or not, and then it's nice and clean. Well, when it's nice and clean, not only is it findable and linkable elsewhere, but I can post it on Goodreads, and I should do that. I did that for a while, but then I stopped, and I need to get back to that. So there's your social media update. And aside from that, it's just been reading all day. Been a beautiful day. It's not bitterly cold, so even though the windows aren't open here, I was still able to sprawl out on the reading on the little bed in the little book room with Frida without worrying about freezing my niblets off. I didn't have to worry about that. I could just read for huge chunks of the day and writing. It's been a very good, productive day. So there you go. Those are your updates. I don't have anything more than that to update you on. Complete defeat when it comes to Camp NaNoWriMo. Sailor's Ease is a good story. I should write it at some point, but it's not going to be now. I don't know. The only thing I can assume, the only explanation I can come up with is that whatever I feel like writing, I thought I cast around pretty good for what I feel like writing, but whatever I feel like writing, it isn't what Sailor's Ease is. I have no idea what it is, but it isn't that. So let's move right to the chat because we're wrapping things up at 10 past the hour. So we don't have much time. Jenny Park says, "Hi guys. Oh look, I'm the thumbnail today." No, no, it's a yak. The thumbnail is a yak. Have you ever met a yak? Ewan Sinclair says, "Hello, hello, hello." Monet Doyle says, "Today is my birthday. Happy birthday." Uh, uh, Jenny Park or the Active Mind is here. No headphones today. Your credibility is gone. Yeah, I don't want that kind of credibility. Thank you. But I was sitting here and uh, I was emailing and voxering and messaging people and whatnot right to the bitter end, right up to the edge of the Stevestream. And then at the last minute, I realized, oh my, the headphones. But Frida is really comfortable next to me, and that would have been a big deal. So we're gonna have to do without the streamer headphones. uh, that reading guy says, I have zero self control when it comes to a Steve stream, despite a mountain of marking I need to do. Are you marking papers? God, I hated that. Oh, God, I hated that. Tolstoy 111 says, Happy Kant 300 Day, everyone. Steve stream today was a categorical imperative. No, the Steve stream today, and if I'd have started this at 5 Eastern Standard Time, it would have been a long rant because in between all that reading and writing today, I have been bantering back and forth via email uh, with a creationist, with a Christian creationist. And that has not been easy. There have been times when that has not been easy. Uh, that reading guy says Steve lacked writing inspiration. I'm hoping that it is not a question of inspiration. I don't believe in inspiration, but I often tell people when they're hiding behind a question of inspiration, I say it's just because you don't want to work, and I'm perfectly okay with working. And Sailor's Ease is a workable story. It is a rock solid story. Beginning, middle, end, developments, happiness, fulfillment on the reader's part. I would like to think, and certainly fulfillment on my part. I should enjoy writing it. But whatever it is, it just was. I was hoping that it would stop being work, and it never did. Uh, NP Hunt says, if you're not wearing the headphones, then you should at least be vaping. That reading guy says, oh no, you can't take my summertime to lecture me about inactive reading time, can you? I can indeed. I can indeed. Uh, oh, the chat jumped already. Goodness gracious. Okay, well, this is the first time that's ever happened so soon. Jasper says, hello, Steve. Loving the live streams. I love them too. They're lots of fun. Uh, I don't know that I'm doing them in the right proper streamer way. Maybe the rant against creationism is something you all would have wanted to hear. Uh, Jared Henderson is here. When are you getting on Truth Social? I'm not getting on Truth Social, but there's one other place. No, it's not TikTok. Is it Slack? I thought there was one other site that I meant to explore. I felt a little bit defeatist about Twitter at first. Even it was a split brain reaction. On one hand, I thought, oh, this stinks. But you're on this same account for years, years and years, lots of pictures, lots of links, lots of instantaneous reactions, 10 years. And then it can go away overnight, just the whim of some bot. It can just go away, and all you don't have access to that anymore. I don't have access to any of the content that was on there. It's all gone. It's all somewhere, but I don't have it anymore. But on the other hand, I was keenly aware of how much nicer living is without Twitter. So it was a split reaction. Uh, Tolstoy 111 says, "Here's one I don't recall you mentioning. Do you like Corinne or Italy by?" Well, this is a chat. This isn't a quiz to see whether or not I've mentioned books by Madame de Stael or not. I, what possible interest is the answer to that question going to be to anyone at all? So, no, I don't like any of the works of Madame de Stael. So, so that should solve that. Uh, Street Medic says, "Okay, I got the lawn mowed, and I don't have to go to work until tomorrow. I'm ready for the verbal abuse." No verbal abuse, but you don't need to mow the lawn. You don't need to do that. You can sell your lawnmower. You don't actually need to mow the lawn. That reading guy's back. Oh, but he's gone now. He was here, but he's gone. We'll find him again. Marking grade 9 essays on Romeo and Juliet. Oh my. See, the problem when I did it is that I wanted to just write a huge amount of stuff on everything, and you can't do that, or it'll be 3 days of solid work. You just can't. I couldn't do that, so I had to be brusque. I had to say, "Are you hitting your points? This isn't right. We went over this in class, etc., etc." And it ended up feeling just awful. Uh, Jasper says, "I assume that reading guide was marking territory, not papers." Jay Rosen says, "Glad to see another library tour. Any chance we'll get to see the history, biography, and essay shelves, or still in too much flux?" Well, I'm going to do the kitchen first. And there's no history or biography or anything like that out there. Any of the Dude Bro stuff. There's no Dude Bro stuff out there. There's the pining that you're doing for entire sections of the library tour where there are no books by women. That isn't true for the kitchen. So I'm going to do the kitchen first, and it's got a huge amount of time left. A huge amount, because the bookcase that I'm doing now, I am just tomorrow going to get to shelf number 2 after having pulled all the crap off it. I'm just now going to get to shelf number 2. Then there's crap for shelf number 3, then shelf number 3, but immediately after that bookcase is a bookcase of double stacked mass market paperbacks. It'll take us the entire month of May to get through that one bookcase. Uh, Kevin J.N. says, "I was just watching Dat Louisiana Life YouTube when I saw you were live. I love watching swamp people, but a Stevestream good times." I don't know Dat Louisiana Life. Are they actual swamp people? I watch a kid named Finn Whitaker. I've watched him for years. He did a vlog sailing on a beautiful ship uh, with his family. He was just a teenager. He's still a teenager, I think. I watched him forever and ever, and then gradually those videos came to an organic end. His family decided, enough with the wandering. We're going back to land. We're going back to living on land. So he uh, obviously he's making a good income from those videos. Doesn't want that to dry up. So he thought he would indulge in van life. That he would shift to being a voyager on land. Uh, and I'll watch. It'll be disappointing to watch. It was really fun and wonderful to watch his videos of sailing with his family. The only element I didn't like is how callous they were towards every other living thing they encountered in the ocean. Just yanking things out of holes, killing things that they don't need to kill. But that was it. That's a small thing. All the rest of it was wonderful. And the thing that you had to remember when you were looking at those vlogs is that he was pretty much under the 24-hour a day eyesight surveillance of his parents. But that's not how he's inclined, and that's not what he's like. And the minute that he fully embarks on van life, he'll be a tobacco addict, a stoner, and that's going to be sad to watch. But there was this weird interval video that he did just recently, where a friend of his, they hiked part of a Florida game trail that was in part in a swamp. They're wading in muddy water in their bare feet. I was cringing the whole time. Uh, let's see here. That reading guy says a rock solid story, but no passion, like all your marriages to death. So, Fee says, "Hi, Steve. Those two recent tags you did in your wildest dreams and stay gold showed a side of you I hadn't seen before. They were just beautiful. You're a sensitive soul." Ooh. Surely there are no sides of me that have not already been seen on this channel. Maybe you just haven't watched 7,000 videos. uh, Although in one of those tags, I think it was in your wildest dreams tag, I mentioned ghosts. I mentioned the fact that all of my babies come back to me when things quiet down on the bed. And that struck a chord. I got a lot of emails. The emails aren't done coming in about that. Kevin JN says the kids at work all stream on Twitch. Yeah, but are they gaming? Are they playing while they're on Twitch, or do some of them just stream without that? Do some of them do this? And if they do, okay, I'm doing that right now. So what would be the advantage of going to Twitch? I thought Twitch was synonymous with streamer gamers. Maybe not. No. Uh, that reading as responding to Jasper saying, "I claim all of Midwestern Canada. You can have it." I don't think he'll have many other claimants. NP Hunt says, "I want to hear the anti-creationism rant. I'm always up for rants." Well, I've been trying to stop it from being a rant. Uh, I've been trying to stop it. I don't want it. The exchange has been going on and off all day, and it's been fairly friendly. I doubt this person is watching the stream. I've had to gently nudge this person into realizing what you are advocating when you advocate Christian creationism. You aren't just advocating a literal interpretation of the book of Genesis. You're advocating a lot of other things. And I very seldom meet a well-intentioned, not a grifter, a well-intentioned creationist who is aware of that fact. So I've been trying to nudge that into awareness. MWER says, when are we getting another Jared Steve collab? Could happen. I mean, Jared has a schedule and a life and a baby. So arranging time is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Jack Hanlon says, "Hi, Steve. I wonder if the curse of people bled into Camp NaNoWriMo. The people in April books are getting better." I don't know if curses transfer like that, but and I believe you me. Well, if you've been in this, Stevestream, or just watched any of my 7,000 videos, the aforementioned 7,000 videos, I don't like to admit this kind of defeat at all. I don't like to say, "Well, I just didn't do it. I just gave up on it." I don't like to do that at all. I've got all the elements in place that I need. I know the story. I have the daily discipline. There wasn't anything to it at all, so I just didn't do it. I don't like that, but I'd like to think that's not a curse. Street Medic says, as someone who's read Kant, I can tell you if you want to know about Kant's philosophy, read someone else's book about Kant. But if you're determined to read the Prolegomena first, it's short. Ewan Sinclair, he's a philosopher, so you don't need to read him. Ewan Sinclair says, "Hi, Steve. I'm reading Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson next. Are you a fan? I'm only familiar with Jekyll and Hyde, but I really like the way he writes. He writes wonderfully. I am a big fan." Jasper says, "Here's a quick live stream question. In your esteemed opinion, how do you reconcile the delicate interplay between the zeitgeist's capricious demands for innovation over the enduring reverence of..." I know, exactly. Exactly. Whether it's the Prolegomena or it's Madame de Stael, I can't help but think, even in people that I like, and I like you all, I can't help but think that lurking in the background of comments like that in a Steve stream is the idea of getting me to blurt out, "I've never heard of Madame de Stael." I can't help but shake that. I know that's wrong. That is the adversarial gotcha rest of social media, but that's not BookTube. But I can't help but shake it. Uh, that reading guy is back. Can we get that rant on young Earth creationism as a form of YEC, as a former YEC in my early days? Well, it wasn't a rant. It's been an ongoing discussion, and the question is self-evident. So debating on the question, uh, there isn't a question. So debating on the question doesn't take much time. The first hour, first thing this morning, was just trying to get my interlocutor's head around the fact that I don't care what's written in the Bible. I don't care about it. It's an ancient Near Eastern text, collection of texts with many, many, many ancient Near Eastern texts. It's just one. The book of Genesis is just one. It doesn't have any significance. When you say that it does, you are importing your conclusions. You are freighting the whole conversation in your favor, whether you realize you're doing it or not. It, it was a was a weird, surreal hour for my interlocutor for me to say, for him to say, well, here it says this and here it says that, and for me to say, I don't care what it says in the Bible. I, I don't care what it says in what it says in the Bible is not anything to do with anything. It's a piece of Near Eastern literature. That's all. I, how would you feel if I responded to your quotes from the Bible with quotes from the Iliad? My feeling is exactly the same way. What I've been trying to do instead is nudge this person into an awareness of what comes with young Earth creationism. It isn't just young Earth creationism on its own, and then you close that door and you're a normal person. A lot of other things come with that. The foremost being biblical inerrancy, and if that comes with it, and there is no young Earth creationism without biblical inerrancy. Once you open the door to that, you open the door to a whole bunch of things that I feel certain my interlocutor does not agree with. I feel certain that my interlocutor does not think that women should be slaves. I feel certain that my interlocutor does not think that black people should be slaves. I feel certain that my interlocutor uh, does. Well, anyway, you get the point. That's what I've been trying to do is get this person to see that, and that's an ongoing thing. Uh, Tolstoy 111 says, I noticed that when adults talk about wanting to become well read, it's always stuff like Lord of the Flies, 1984, nothing wrong with these, but so many people's references end with high school. Well, that's understandable because a lot of times with a lot of people, certainly in the United States, which has, you know, if you read between the lines in some of the latest surveys and surveys going back 20 years, almost 50% of the adult population in the United States is unbelievably reading impaired. They wouldn't be able to read their way out of junior grade schools in Europe. I won't say fully illiterate, although I have my doubts. I really do. I know insert your Dunkin' Donuts joke here, but I look at the people in line at Dunkin' Donuts, and I think if I handed you a paragraph of prose, particularly difficult prose, just a single paragraph of prose, could you read it? Could you read it and understand it? I have my doubts. I think those numbers are huge, but it makes sense that people would reference books like that because for most people in the United States, that's the last time they read. So they're going to think about that. They have no idea what else is out there. Kevin JN says, yes, Dat Louisiana life is swamp people. Well, I've actually met some swamp people. I can't imagine them sustaining a channel, although they were rather nice. They were rather nice. I had to pull the usual to get past their guard. To get them to lower their guard, I had to pull the usual Steve stunt when I was traveling because they had dogs, and those dogs were ill-fed and vicious, especially towards my dogs, but also towards me for the first few seconds. And then I did what I always do, and that changed things. People attribute supernatural discernment to dogs. If a dog likes someone, then their guard goes down right away. And usually, in some cases, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, the opposite was true. It was anger at the dogs for letting the community down. But anyway, I'm gonna have to look up this That Louisiana life. I'm gonna have to look that up, see what it's like. Street medic. I'm enduring Oklahoma now, but I'm from Louisiana, and that Louisiana life isn't all biscuits and gravy. Well, I'll have to look at it and see. I don't know this channel. I had all I've been watching, of course, is Boy Kills World. Although I did make an exception today, just a bit. I didn't do the whole thing before I started pining for Boy Kills World. I wasn't able to get. I'm weaning myself. It's baby steps. I wasn't able to watch the whole of a movie, another movie, a different movie. But I did watch part of a movie. I watched probably the first 40 minutes of Deadpool and Wolverine. I have a lot of thoughts on the subject. A lot. Uh, so that's progress, right? In a way, I could branch out to that Louisiana life. Jenny Parks is back. I agree and love these streams too. Didn't have it in me to respond to yesterday's stream, but these are always good to get a smile out of any of us. Well, that's nice to hear. Monet Doyle, The Birthday Girl. I'm reading a book on by one of my favorite authors, and it's a good book. The Active Mind is back. Will it take another 7,000 videos to cover all your bookcases slash shelves slash immense stacks? I don't know 7,000 videos, but it's a lot. It's my library shelves are not like a lot of other library shelves. I'm not going to say, here's a book, here's the next book, here's the next book. I have a huge, usually I have a huge backstory connecting me to every single book I hold up on camera. And I want to say a lot about them. So in addition to that, there are just lots of books. And we're in the sunny slopes right now because the minute this bookcase is going to take forever to do. But the minute it's done, we move on to a gigantic bookcase piled all the way up to eye level with mass market paperbacks. That's going to take forever. Absolutely forever. But I'm going to do it. Jasper says currently reading Fiends of the Eastern Front. It's really fun. I love that. I love it. Saw a copy at the Brattle just the other day. I was going to get it. I didn't have any idea who to send it to. Also, people definitely do stream without playing games. Oh, where did you go? The chat jumped when I was in mid comment. It's never done that before. Okay, let's go and find you. Let's go and find you. The biggest section on it is just chatting, and this is Twitch. But I already do this. Why would I do that? Surely nobody does both. Jay Rosen says, I promise I'm not pining for any dude bro shelves. No need for Sun Tzu here. I don't think you've done those shelves since 2019. So I'm just curious how they've changed. Oh my God, it hasn't been that long, has it? I would imagine the core of them haven't changed much. There have been peripheral stuff that has come and then gone in between. But it hasn't been that long. 5 years since I did a library tour? That can't be true. Well, I'm determined somehow to get through everything. I don't know how that's going to work, but somehow. Street Medic says, I've watched the first video of your 100 greatest books, and if snappy answers to stupid questions isn't number one, I'm going to have to reevaluate your credentials. One of the things that's been making me chuckle about those videos in the comments are all the guesses of what number one is going to be. They've been just terrific. And fortunately, I'm so grateful for this. I know I'm cursing it. I know it won't last. Fortunately, the comments have been either interested or interesting or fun like that, but no ponderous pretentosauruses. No one like that has yet found these videos. They're all over my Western Canon videos from 10 years ago or whatever, but no one's found these yet. There's been no comments along from, woolly leather elbow patch guys that act like the elder in the room, even though they're all 30 years younger than I am, sort of patting me on the head and saying, oh, those are pretty good lists. Yep, 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 pretty good. When my reading utterly eclipses theirs, utterly eclipses, and not just on the leather elbow patch subjects that they read, the two subjects that they read, these virginal little timid readers, but all subjects. It absolutely eclipses their reading. But do I say that? No. Do they even think that's possible? No. No. And why? Something I mentioned yesterday. Why don't they think that? Because I'm not being ponderous. I'm not being serious. I don't have a beard. I'm smiling and having fun. Therefore, I am not a serious reader. They won't mention me by name, but I watch their videos where they get all ready and they're very ponderous and they're talking about the obscenity of things. And clearly by implication saying that if you don't talk about literature this way, like a religion, then you're not serious about literature. I watch their videos and I get that sensation from them, and then I look over their shoulder at one book there, another book there, a third book there that has my name printed on it. And you don't know that. You're not going to bother to check. But anyway, Jenny Park says, nope, the road is number one. Lots and lots of calls. Speaking of emails, uh, I mentioned the other day, one of you told me that Reddit, the incels on Reddit, found my various attack videos on the road by Cormac McCarthy, and they were discussing it briefly. I haven't gone back to that thread. I really should. I did go to it. I went and looked at it, and a lot of you were emailing me saying, "Hey, I found this. Here's the link to it. Oh, are you going to respond? Et cetera, all that sort of thing." But in the parentheses of a lot of those emails, a lot of you were saying, in addition to, hey, this is fun, they're talking about you, whatnot, a lot of you are saying you would love it if I did another one of those kind of just evisceration reviews. And the number one candidate for that was All the Pretty Horses. That's a distinct possibility. That was a lot of fun to do. And bless it, a number of you over the years have said, yeah, those videos about the road are fun. But the reason I keep rewatching them is because they're also, one of you put it this way, about 4 years ago, one of you said they're a masterclass in criticism. This more than any video that you've made on how to review a book, these show you what a critic is doing when he rips apart a book. If he's not just acting from personal animus, if he's actually dealing with what the book is on the page, this is amazing. You don't see this anywhere else from even negative reviews. I was very happy to hear that. Very happy. That's a thought that's been on my mind. Uh, let's see here. Ravens fan 1961. It is April and it is 96 degrees here in Las Vegas, but at least I don't have to cut the grass. There is no grass. According to some, there isn't any global warming either. Yeah. I have looked at a lot of the long term prediction data. Of course, a lot of that is up in the air, and La Nina and El Nino and all that sort of thing. But if I had to make a prediction for LA, I would say that your summer proper, because you're right, it's April. It's April. We're 2 months away from summer. If I had to if I had to make a long term prediction based on what I've seen, Las Vegas is going to have an utterly uninhabitable summer, like what Texas had last year, only worse. And I think Texas is going to be like Texas last year, only worse. Last year, some places in the United States reached triple digits every day in and day out, until it no longer made the news. It just wasn't news anymore. What, you're on 30 straight days of triple digit temperatures? Your 30th straight day where the coolest temperature at 3 at night is 90 degrees? Well, yeah, we reported on this last week and the week before that. So we're not going to report on it. It's not news anymore. That's big news. That's huge news. That's only 10 degrees away from not being habitable. That's only 10 degrees away from hundreds of people dying in nursing homes. And I have a feeling that's what's coming to Vegas this summer. Uh, Kevin J.N. says, they tell me they like Twitch because they take lessons from their monetization. They game and flirt to make more money. Kids these days, good Lord. Should I monetize on Twitch? Develop a nice Brattle fund? A Brattle fund would be nice, so I don't ever have to think about it. But then that would mean more books coming in here. But it'd mean more books going out, too. I'd be able to find a lot more things for all of you. Tolstoy 11 says, I just read Goethe's Elective Affinities. It's fascinating contrast to Jane Austen, to say the least. Boy, you're just not getting the mood of the chat, are you? You just aren't. This is not the faculty lounge at Oriel College. You're just not getting that. You're refusing to see it. Ryan says on Twitch they seem to also open packs of Pokemon cards while thousands watch. You'd be impressed and confused by their squeals. So what could I do on Twitch? What could I do on Twitch that I don't do anywhere else that might work? And how easy is it to monetize? If I could do something on Twitch that required money, so I would need to be monetized on Twitch to pay for it, as sort of a self-fulfilling loop, what could it be? Weekly comic books? book reviews, I'm covered there. So what? I don't know. I don't know what it would be. That reading guy's back. We need to bring back your nickname as the esteemed reviewer. Auntie Gaia says, Steve, did you see the crazy story about the guy setting himself aflame outside the Manhattan courthouse? At least didn't target innocent people before going out. Yes, I did. I did see that story. I mentioned it on a couple of Steve streams. I mentioned it. Uh, I have my theories about it. Of course, everybody has their theories about it. Not much is being released. Not many reliable details are being released. I think it was. Uh, I don't think it was a spontaneous individual thing. I think it was designed to test the readiness of the courthouse, which dovetails with one of my two predictions about the trial. But we will see. We will see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Tolstoy 111 says that was not my intention with Madame de Stael at all. I was quite positive you'd heard of her. I've heard of her. I strongly, strongly recommend the biography of her, Mistress to an Age. I cannot recommend that book strongly enough. What a book. That reading guy says the Bible is great as literature, but as a religious text, it is certainly lacking. I don't know what a religious text would be. I had another person, totally different person, emailed me just last week and said, if you were talking to an atheist, how could you convince them of the validity of the Bible? When I, I don't even know what validity would mean in that case. Validity is when someone's putting forward a hypothesis and you're testing its validity against whether or not it's wrong. The Bible isn't putting forth a hypothesis, you're putting forth hypotheses about it. Uh, Street Medic says, I don't get how anyone who has read the Bible can believe it's true. Just look up Balaam's talking ass. I'm thinking I'm actually proud of how I phrased that. Tolstoy 111 says a great deal of American adults who do read consume nothing but YA. I've encountered this firsthand. It's true. And I used to think I used to say on this channel that if you do that, you're rotting your teeth. You're just eating the icing on the cake. I often wonder now, looking at literacy surveys, I often wonder if maybe I was putting the cart before the horse. Maybe the reason so many adults do that is because it's written for their level, not because they're lowering their level. I don't know. Jasper says, I'm betting that the Bible is number one on the greatest books list. Well, the Bible isn't just one book. Also, it's capitalized. Thanks. It's not just one book. Uh, View from the Bar is here. Sorry to deviate. Oh, you're a deviant. So I would expect nothing less. But I just caught up with yesterday's stream. I can't find anything online about God forgive the reference Trump's hairless body or his illness. Where can I read about that? Oh, I don't think you're looking hard enough. There are plenty of blind items in the Post and the Herald, or the Tribune from early '90s. Plenty of them, where he disappeared, and it was because he contracted this particular thing that none of you named yesterday. None of you actually named it, although it's well known. What can happen to you that makes you impotent and stops you from being able to grow hair on your body? Those are two very distinctively conjoined things. But I've never. Well, I lived through it, so I haven't looked for links, but I'm sure they're out there. Unless maybe not, unless there's a scrubbing that's been done. There's a vast, uh, there's a vast dark organization behind Trump getting to be president in 2016. Maybe they went scrubbing. It can happen. If David Lade can pay $2,000 and get things scrubbed from the internet, I'm sure they can pay $20,000 and get a much better job done. Uh, that reading guy. Oh no, that reading guy. Where did you go? You've disappeared. Let's find you again. We know where we were because we were at Alex. So we just go back to there we go. On Plato's Phaedro, Socrates is super religious, which is something philosophy bros never talk about. Jasper says, all I've been watching is What We Do in the Shadows. Hilarious show. Also started The Abyss. How could you start The Abyss and not watch the whole thing? How could you possibly do that? Until the botched ending. But all the rest of the movie? Oh my God, how could you stop? Uh, but and I here I automatically want to say, gee, it's been a while since I watched The Abyss. I would love to watch it again, but I know I can't. I can't. If I couldn't get all the way through Deadpool and Wolverine before I was pulled back to Boy Kills World, then I can't do that. Andy Guy says, Steve, have you been counting how many times you've seen Boy Kills World? You should keep a tally. I have no idea. No idea at all. I have my favorite moments, my favorite half moments, my favorite angles, my favorite camera shots. Ryan says, reading update wrapped up Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles today and jumped to John Le Carre's Our Game. Le Carre's surgical prose feels so measured. His every word just calculated perfectly. I agree completely. You must be experiencing something like the bends, something like severe disorientation to go from the lush, overplanted Louisiana garden of Anne Rice to John Le Carre. That's a great contrast. I'm glad you can read both of them, but they're not the same. Uh, Matthew Alberto says, I was assigned As I Lay Dying for my American literature class and really liked it. I then decided to read a couple other Faulkner books and really liked them as well. Am I turning into a dude bro? Could very well be. You should take some corrective measures right away. Take two Bronte sisters and call me in the morning. That reading guy, if your bookshelf tour takes forever, who cares? Remember, your former library tour of doom, which ironically ended. Well, I'm going to do this one. I have no idea how long it's going to take. No idea at all. And I'm kind of determined, just as a personal challenge, to do it all on the laptop without. There are some angles here where I think there's no way that's going to happen. You're going to need to use your cell phone propped against something or an iPad propped against something. I'd like to kind of do it all on the laptop. We'll see. Uh, Auntie Gaia says Hassan is a big Twitch guy. If that's not a deterrent, I don't know what is. Yeah, he makes a huge amount of money on Twitch. But could I? What would I be doing on Twitch? I don't know. Jasper says, loving the Friends of the Eastern Front, the Fiends of the Eastern Front book. Saw a hilarious review on Goodreads claiming that it was bad because Carpathian vampires are simply not enough these days. Did they expect werewolves? Those of you who don't know what Jasper is talking about, there's a trilogy of novels about vampires in on the Eastern Front. Mixes horror and historical fiction, does a great job of it. Those of you who maybe taken my recommendation up over the years and read Bloody Red Baron by Kim Newman, very much along the same line. Tolstoy 111 says, we give him grief here, but Benjamin McAvoy's video on Jane Austen is really very informed. I would recommend it. I wouldn't. I give him grief, and justifiably so. He doesn't mean a single word of it. Uh, Jenny Park says Cam Wolf has a Twitch channel too, usually for reading/writing sprints, and sometimes plays games. It's more interactive than YouTube. Is it really? Oh, I should check on this. If Cam has it, then that's at least one real person there. I should check on this. Ryan says your ponderous impression is almost a good Richard Nixon. No, I will leave. I will leave Richard Nixon to Dan Hedaya in the movie Dick. I showed bits and pieces of that to David when he was here, and I can't watch whole movies at all because I watch Boy Kills World instead. That's what I do as an avocation, like a Capuchin monk. But I can watch bits and pieces of other things when I'm not watching Boy Kills World, and when I do, I always watch the ending to Dick, where he's leaving the White House to the strains of "You're So Vain" by Carly Simon. Uh, that reading guy says you will get the pretentious types all up in an uproar when the complete Conan list appears as number one on your list. I find it hard to believe that a lot of you can't predict what number one is, but we have a long way to go. I need to do another one of those videos. Thanks for the chat for reminding me. I need to do another one of those videos. NP Hunt says rolls up tweed sleeves at elbow patches and strokes goatee. But who could seriously hate the love letter? The single worst book ever written. Ever. That's a lot. The Street Medic says, I can't take any book bros seriously if they don't read comic books. Oh, well, they don't read comic books, and they have a very good reason why. They're full of snobbery as to why. That's the same thing as Benjamin McAvoy when he talks about Jane Austen. The, just pretend that you don't know English. Block out the English. Maybe if you only know English, that'll be possible to do. Try to block out the English and just listen to him talk. He's talking about how proud he is of the poodle that has mastered this trick. That's the tone of voice. Just Jasper says, was Nixon a ponderous dude, bro? No. Rena is reading. You could deconstruct the one you consider the absolute worst book, The Love Letter. I forgot what her book is called. It's called The Love Letter. The number one suggestion, though, for deconstruction is All the Pretty Horses. That reading guy says, please do another series of videos tearing apart a book. My vote is for Infinite Jest. That would require me to sink into that. That also got a couple of votes. Also, a lot of people voted for Gravity's Rainbow, and I had to inform them. Pynchon is not dude, bro. I love him. Uh, I couldn't tear apart Gravity's Rainbow, but Infinite Jest has gotten some votes, but that would be a huge undertaking. Uh, that isn't worth it. NP Hunt says an evisceration view of the love letter would be hilarious. The author's gonna have to die before I do that. Jenny Park says I don't read comics. Am I a fake reader? No, you're not a fake reader. You're just not a dude, bro. That's all. Jenny Park says I do read odd manga or graphic novels. Well, then you do read comics. I don't read single issue comics from Marvel or DC at all. I don't know anybody who does anymore. Not since they kill people. Ewan Sinclair says, do you remember all the bookshops you visited in your many travels? Here in Inverness, there's a great one called Leakey's. I just love being there. I don't remember them all. No. I tend to remember the ones that were places I went when I lived somewhere, not when I was traveling. When I was traveling, I really didn't go into bookstores. Everybody wanted me to, but I never did because I was never going to buy anything. I had my books already. And books are lethal for weight. So if you're traveling light, you can't buy books. When I lived somewhere that was different, then I had a nest to build, so I would go to places, but not all the others. No. Gem Springs, hello Steve, your videos cheer me up. Well, that's nice to hear. NP Hunt says, ooh, actually, I agree that reading guy Infinite Jest as a Hatchet Job review would be great. It's too big. It's too much of a waste of time. My time, I should say. Nick Piccarelli says, the way you say the boy and the man in the road reviews make me laugh every time. But I agree, it was really interesting to see a book broken down like that. Yeah, the boy and the man. The reason they're not named is because they're us. I've been informed on Reddit. Of course they're not named. They're us. Okay. Got any proof of that? Yeah. You're just going to say that? You're just going to say that's why? They're us? Okay, great. I say they're Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. You say, no, they're not. Well, I say they are. Got any proof for it? No. Do I? No. That reading guy says, I don't weep for Sin City. Weather in hell is appropriate for them. I know. This kind of weather is coming for everybody. And it's not pretty at all. Not at all. And oddly enough, the reverse could be true for New England. The more fresh water, the more glacial water melts into the North Atlantic, the greater chance there is of the North Atlantic current collapsing. And if the North Atlantic current collapses, well, then, that could mean major weather climatic changes for New England, Upper New England, and Canada, and not in the warm direction either. Uh, Jasper says one comment on the Reddit thread that made me laugh was the one saying that you look like you bit straight through apple seeds. I know, sorry, they're all obsessed about my teeth. Although the one that got me the most emails from people from friends here from emailing me was the couple of comments that were saying that I was just tearing apart the book for the clicks, for the attention. And now, a few people were emailing me saying they don't realize you're the one who doesn't want attention. Up Down says streaming again. I need to sleep tonight. I'm moving tomorrow. Yeah, blow it off. Jared Henderson is back. Unless you're planning on playing video games, becoming a San clone, or showing excessive skin, Twitch isn't the place for you, Steve. Well, you say so, but other people have said yes. And I doubt that Cam, I don't remember the name of his current, he doesn't have a channel now, right? It was Page Nomad, it was Wolfshot Publishing. I don't remember what the last channel name he had was. But I'm sure that he's not showing skin. And the mention of him was that he only occasionally plays games. So other people do it. Other people are over there. NB Hunt says, coming soon, Steve's reviewing sprints on Twitch. What would it be? What would I do on Twitch that I don't? I would want to make it something where there's a reason for you to go there. Not that I know that there's any reason for you to come to my BookTube channel, but you know what I mean. I'd want to do something there that I don't do anywhere else. And that might be fun. Tolstoy 111 says it's safe to say that modern day faculty lounges would have no literary discussions to speak of. Modern day English profs don't read actual literature. NB Hunt says pantsless review sprints, of course. Street Medic says if you went on Twitch, they would drop to their knees and worship you like a god. I just hope you use your powers for good. What would I do on Twitch? That's what my curiosity would be. I'll have to check it out. I've never actually gone to the site. I'll have to check it out and see what's there. Uh, Dorothy Satterfield says, "Hi Steve, I read Joe Spivey's review of Liz Truss's book today. Ouch. Now I'm wondering if you at Truss about it, but maybe she's not on Twitter." Well, no. Oh, first of all, I loved his review. I'm glad you liked it too. I thought it was hilarious that during that video that he made, a week in the life of a freelance book reviewer, during that video he says, "Well, I wouldn't want it to be a hatchet job." If that's not a hatchet job, I feel sorry for the book that he considers that he does a hatchet job on. But in answer to your question, no, no, I would never do that. I know that this is a pre-social media attitude. I am perfectly happy to at an author and a publisher if it's a positive review, but I don't want to go out of my way to tell anybody that I've panned, that the reviewers panned their books. They'll find it on their own. They'll find the pan on their own. So I don't do that, and I don't agree with people online who do. Uh, Rena is reading says, I second Jared about Twitch. You'd have a much harder time with bots in chat, and the technical streaming stuff for basically the same content. Well, but would it be the same content? Or is there something else I could do? I don't need to have a chat. Surely not everybody on Twitch has a chat, or do they? Is that an endemic feature? Jasper says, could the juxtaposition of existential ennui and postmodern deconstruction within the narrative of Moby Dick be interpreted as a metaphor for the futility of human endeavor? Jasper says, cosmic indifference, let's delve into the abyss of literary analysis together, shall we? Well, I'd rather delve into the abyss, the movie. I wish I could watch it again. That scene at the beginning. I'm not talking about the special effects. That scene at the beginning, where Ed Harris's character is so mad at his ex-wife that he rips off his wedding ring and throws it in the head, and then can't bear to be away from it, and goes fishing for it. That's a wonderful moment. No dialogue, just a wonderful moment. Uh, DT says, for new reviewers who want to write for Open Letters Review, do you assign the books? Do people write under a pseudonym? I don't assign books, no. And people don't write under a pseudonym unless they want to. No, it's is there a new release that you want to write about? And are you willing to play by the rules? There aren't many rules. But there are some. They're outlined very effectively a million years ago in my tips for book reviewing. There aren't many. Don't argue with your editor. Adhere to the basic format and regularities of the venue. Stuff like that. Pick a new release. So in Open Letters Review's case, it means that the book can't have been reprinted in paperback. It has to be new. It doesn't have to be very new, but it has to be new. If you live in the lower 48 of the United States and you know where you live, you can give me an accurate address. I'll be happy to mail you reader copies, review copies from months down the line if you want that. Wilson Shugart is here. Going to make another video, Wilson? That poetry thing that you did where you're scratching your dog was very nice. Surely could do that again. I know a guy getting a the chat bounced you out. Oh, those are some smart bots, aren't they? Let's try and find you again, though. Oh, because you don't make many comments. Let's try and find you. Uh, I know a guy getting a PhD in linguistics who can't write incomplete sentences. Gets friends to edit his essays for him. I don't doubt it. Up Down says you should stream historical games on Twitch like Crusader Kings. I'm not gonna waste time playing games. Being on Twitch would be a waste of time enough. I wouldn't want to compound things. Jasper says I would pay good money for Steve Games channel now. I don't game. Books and knits and things. Steve, can you knit? No, no. I have almost no sense of touch. It would be a ridiculous thing for me to try. I have almost no sense of touch. Wilson is back. Was Trump's affliction the same as your favorite German philosophers? I don't want to give James Carville any extra ammunition. Dylan McMahon says, greetings from Florida. This talk of Trump's illness reminds me of these pictures of his weird syphilitic lesions. What a gross, gross man. Well, he lives a very, very unhealthy life. Let's just put it that way. Tolstoy 111, The Abyss just got long-awaited 4K Blu-ray release that COVID delayed. It looks fantastic. Yeah, I would. All this talk makes me makes. I'm sure it's on one of my streaming services, but I'm not gonna watch it. It's not Boy Kills World. DT says, "Is Max Allen Collins a good writer?" Well, let's not say good, but he's very enjoyable. You will really like him. Or a writer of good trash. He's a writer of good trash. Yes. Also, should I pick up his Road to Perdition for $5? $5 from Max Allen Collins? Oh, I wouldn't do it. Well, surely you could find it for $1. Maybe not. Maybe not. Uh, Tolstoy 111 is responding to Matthew Alberto. Don't feel bad, dude. Faulkner is great. Faulkner's not great. He's really, really bad. Uh, Jasper says we need more Steve movie recommendations. Eh, could be. Grammaticus Books and I haven't done a dueling list in quite some time. We'll have to do another one. Lindsay Reed says the road critique video makes me miss the funny banter of strip cover lit. Yeah, yeah, booktube, things happen and they are great and you watch them and then they peter out and go away and other things replace them. It took me a while to get used to that organic nature that you know uh, Lindsay Ray is not still making videos. She's long gone from booktube. Street Medic says all this talk about TV shows and no one has ever mentioned Johnny Quest, the greatest TV show of all time. It's because it's not, and you don't think it is. J. Scott Phillips is here. I'm late again. What happened to the headphones? I hardly recognized you. Is the headphones are in the other room? The bean was really comfortable next to me, and has, in the interval, laid claim to one of my hands again. so I didn't bolt up to get them. Dylan McMahon says, "Shame that one half of Strip Cover Lit turned out to be such a pest." Alleged pest. Alleged, and not that much. Not you say such a pest like it was epic. Even if all the things that were alleged were true, they didn't amount to much. I'd like to think we could all be a little more elastic than that, a little more, especially if somebody's videos have brought you a lot of pleasure, but maybe not. Tolstoy 111. What if McAvoy is saying is worthwhile? Does it really matter if he is sincere? That can't be a serious question. That just can't be, even in the 21st century. That can't be a serious question. Jasper says, I've been on a huge vampire kick this week, loving every minute of it. In terms of reading, you mean? I hope. I hope it's not an Army Hammer type thing. If you are you doing any e-reading of these things, feel free to email me for ebooks. DT says, where on your quadratic equation is Mickey Spillane? He's really enjoyable trash. He's his books go down really, really easy. They really do. They're not good at all, but they are really easy to read. Mickey Spillane would be a great choice for Garbagas, for instance. Kevin JN, what is it like sailing at sea? Was it reading and stargazing? Never been at sea, and I'm not sure if I could handle losing sight of land. It takes some getting used to, to put it mildly. It takes some getting used to. There is quite a bit of stargazing. It's not as much stargazing or reading as you would think. If you're sailing alone, there's pretty much a lot of stuff to do. Uh, you could hit a calm patch, but there's pretty much stuff to do, a lot of stuff to do. So there are stretches. Certainly, there are stretches where you can just tie everything off and let the thing mend itself, let the thing tend to itself while you read or maybe take a nap. Uh, and there were landfalls, all sorts of atolls and things like that, where there's no one there. You can make a landfall and just be comfortable for the night without needing to worry about a storm coming up or a swell or something like that. Uh, Not quite. It's wonderful, but uh, yeah, if you're not sure that you can handle losing sight of land, that's one way to learn it. That's one way to know that, because that is eerie. That is the eeriest part of it. I don't know. Mark Richardson might name something else, might nominate another aspect. For me, the eeriest part was when you are not just lost sight of land, but when you're a long, long way from land, a long way from land. That feeling isn't really describable, and you won't know how that affects you until you're in it. Uh, and when you're in it, when you're well and properly in it like that, I don't know if it's the same now when you've got all these location devices, but once upon a time when I did it, there weren't any location devices of any kind. So once you were in it, once you were 3 or 4 days out from any land in any direction, well, then you're a pea in the sea. You're nothing. You're a little grain, and everything is up to you. All of it is up to you, you and chance. Uh, let's see here. That reading guy says, when people give good advice and not mean it, does it compromise the advice? I don't know where these questions are coming from. What on earth? DT says there appears to be scrubbing for Trump. I looked Melania's trainer, couldn't find a single hint. Also, the blind items of his disease came up crickets. Sinister. I find that hard to believe. Surely there are YouTube channels of people who have the physical clippings of those articles. No. Surely the back catalog of Spy magazine is online. No, that can't have been scrubbed. Uh, it could be. Books and knits and things. One reason I respect Ben McAvoy is that he left Oxford University without losing his Essex twang, which I like, being a bit of an Essex kid myself. Okay, well, I don't want to ding your affection for his channel at all. If you're at Oxford University and you're paying tens of thousands of pounds every year, wouldn't you leave it if you could make tens of thousands of pounds extra by grifting? Uh, I don't know that you wouldn't make that choice. Uh, that reading guy says, think of all the dude bros you could save with a deep dive into infinite chess. They don't seem to be thinking of it as salvation. Judging from that Reddit thread, they don't seem to think of it as salvation. They seem to think I need dental work. Colin says, hey, Steve, would you consider to be the best? Who would you consider to be the three best writers who contributed to weird tales during the golden age? Well, wouldn't it be the normal? Wouldn't I have to recommend the normal top three? Wouldn't I have to do that? I'm not required to say H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and what's the other one I'm thinking of? It's slipping my mind right now. It's not Fritz Leiber. Uh, I wouldn't rank. I don't spontaneously rank top threes, but wouldn't it have to be them? Isn't that the standard answer? Though I've only named two because the third one's slipping my mind. Uh, Slowly reading says every now and then I get an Archie's comics at the supermarket. I've read those since the 70s. I used to get them. I used to get a whole bunch of Archie square bound collections. I don't get them anymore. I have a whole bunch of them. DT says, what adjectives would you use to describe Le Carre? I enjoyed his night manager and was simply enthralled by the idea of private arms dealers before it became common knowledge. I wouldn't I wouldn't specify my adjectives, but he doesn't have. I'm glad that you're enjoying him. He is tremendously enjoyable. I'm going to put off any more Le Carre reading until November. I've got way too much stuff claiming my time. And keep in mind, we're all poised on the edge of a busy booktube summer with lots of booktube events. Slowly reading says, "Oh, and I'm Ingrid Fitz, but I can't change my channel name back for 2 weeks. Stupid YouTube. Oh, they don't let you do that." Stephen Bronstein is here. So, Tony Bourdain, why did your eyes glaze over in warm reverence and reminiscence of a lifetime of fond memories when you saw his name brought up? What are you hiding? Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. The eerie side of letting people watch and listen to you every day for hours on end. It's- you realize you forget when you're doing it. I forget when I'm doing that people can see you. They can remember what they're seeing. They can start to judge you. They can start to estimate what you're feeling and thinking. Uh, that's interesting. Street Medic. I miss the 70s pseudoscientific mass market paperbacks like the Tao of Physics and Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Is there any equivalent now? There's a huge equivalent now. There's a whole industry that those things sparked, a multi-million dollar industry. But it's insulated now. Most of them never cross over into into the popular reading world. The closest that they get would be a cousin that no one wants to admit, which is dude bro productivity hacks. Those are basically religious. Any kind of manifest your destiny thing is basically religion. It's basically new age, it's basically crystals. And those are very popular too, but no one wants to draw the genealogical link. Jenny Park says Cam seems to have stooped all over his bookish content. Stopped his content. I miss it. He doesn't stream much anymore, and we haven't had any writing updates since his last book came out. Oh my! Well, maybe he's just moving away from social media just in general. Sergeant Earache, get yourself a head cam and Twitch stream your walks with the bean. Not a chance. They're for her. They're not human time at all. No, they're for her. Kevin Jan says, how about a channel about dog rescue and proper dog care? Dog rescue, I would probably have to rescue dogs. I'm not going to do that. Books and nits and things. I do often wonder if Ben McAvoy is regurgitating his former lecture notes, but that's unfair of me. It's overestimating him, I would say. So you're rejecting the idea that he has a writing staff. I guess you're just rejecting that. Jared Henderson says the only reason to switch to Twitch is because the chat UI is very good compared to YouTube. So if you don't want to use the chat features on Twitch, there's absolutely no point. Well, I haven't looked at it yet. Am I supposed to take, I guess, take your word for it? Perhaps if you ever visit Hyde Cottage, you can show it to me. That'd be nice. Street Medic. Oh, Street Medic disappeared. Where did he go? Where did he go? Let's find him. There we go. I've never used Twitch, but I've had partners who are addicted to it. Is it addictive? Is it that kind of a site like TikTok? Never seen TikTok either. NB Hunt says, we didn't get to the bottom of the mystery about your most famous pen pal. Told us her name was Betty, and I guess it started rolling in. My money's on Crocker or Elizabeth Taylor. Oh, goodness. I'm going to take that as a compliment. I'm going to take that as you misestimating my age. Stephen Bronson said, how do you have the discipline and energy to a clean shave every single day? Whenever I have to shave, I turn into a Blumhoff. Well, in the same way, it's a daily discipline. It's one of the things that echoes with me about the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever. It's tricky to do. It's tricky to shave when you can't feel what you're doing. And I know that that's true, and I know that that disinclines me. And facial hair on grown men is ridiculous. So I instead make a kind of a ritual out of it. I didn't do it today, but I make kind of a ritual out of it specifically to confront it that way every day. Uh, DT says, as Nancy Drew was brought up, what's your opinion about the quality and influence of the earlier Drew books versus the later Baudelarized ones? I haven't read any of the later ones. I read the ninth Nancy Drew murder mystery, the ninth Nancy Drew mystery. I forget what it was called. I read that for March Mystery Matters. I just never got around to talking about it. That's all. DT says, I'm 100% certain I've only read a few Baudelarized Nancy Drews, but since discovering this fact, I wonder what I missed. That reading guy says, do you see any value in video games? None whatsoever. Street Medic says, I haven't played a video game since Pong came out. Books and Nits and Things says, DT, John Le Carre lived along the cliffs from where I lived. Possible adjectives when passing him on one of his walks might be discreet. Jenny Parks, my rage quit is too strong to allow me to game. I'll stick to books. Street Medic says, don't do video games because I will go down in flames on the chessboard and I claim I let you win. Nasi Lamek says, how many pages do you read in an hour? Quite a few. Quite a few. Quite a few. More in an hour than most people read in a day. Jasper says, I go from not gaming for over a year to sinking 18 hours into a game all at once and then not playing it again. I guess that's better than wasting weeks on it. Okay. Steve Abranchi says, I looked up a picture of Barron Trump yesterday, and he doesn't look like Eric or Junior, lucky for him. But I do see a resemblance to Donald, just more handsome, which I attribute to Melania. I'm not seeing it. And on top of me not seeing it, it's not there. Genetically, it's not there. Dorothy Satterfield is responding to Tolstoy 111. Uh, uh, let's see here. Street Medic says, I'm going to dig out some old Remo Williams Destroyer books for Carpagus. Jasper Antilles says, I hate McAvoy's cadence. It feels like he's trying to recruit me to a really lame cult. He 100% views reading as religion. And you all know how I think about that. The only people who want to view reading as a religion are the people who want to be priests and priestesses. And the only reason to want to be a priest or priestess is to make money from the flock. That's all. That's the only reason you do that. Wilson is back. My dog would be unbelievably delighted to know she has fans. She has one fan, of course, and me. Tolstoy 111 says, my McAvoy question was serious. I meant, what if you just had the script of his Jane Austen video without knowing where it came from? Okay. We're obviously going to fundamentally disagree about this kid. That's all. My point is it is a script. Anyway, Wilson says dogs are for bossing around, but humans exist to pen and to pet and praise her. Uh, yes, Frida's the exact same way. She's even the dogs that we met today that are her friends. They are her friends. She doesn't scream at them anymore. She doesn't yell at them or anything like that. She just tolerates them, but they love her. I keep telling her these are your friends. It's okay if you act the way you do with strange dogs, but you could like these. It might help you. DT, I like escapism of Johnny Quest too, but what would you say is the reason you don't like it? I didn't say I didn't like it. I said you don't like it. Dylan says McAvoy is so grating, and I hate how he sells deep reading as a cure to his viewers' ails. He sells it all right. That's a perfect transactional way to put it. He sells it for money and would not do it without. Uh, anyway, why he keeps coming up here. Dorothy Satterfield says, I Googled male infertility and hairlessness and came up with hypnogonadism. No, that's something much more basic than that. Wilson had it in one. You don't want to say that he's smarter than you are. Books and knits and things. Oh, wait, where'd you go? Wearing headphones makes one's head look like a monkey nut. DT says, I think a review of Ayn Rand's books in the style of your road review would be very amusing. Jenny Parks says, speaking of dogs, do you have any advice on dealing with the loss of our beloved little fur babies? Yes, I do. It's a little somber for a Stevestream. Uh, it's the it's grief. It's the grieving process. So with dogs, there's a generational thing. They age so much faster than humans that there's an element that I would tack on faster than I would with human to human grief. First, you've got to grieve. It's a poison. It's a storm. You've got to let it move through. Can't hold on to it. You can't let it get malignant. You've got to let it move through. But while you're letting it move through, it shouldn't take long. Healthy grief doesn't take long like that. Missing someone goes on forever. But grieving is a separate thing. It's a trauma to the emotions. And you've got to give it time to happen, but only so much time. If it takes too long, then you're holding on to it and it's not happening healthily. And that can really screw you up. Uh, so at the tail end of grieving, the thing to do, the only thing to do to deal with the loss is to get another dog or cat or two dogs or two cats or whatever it is. Uh, there are people out there who need you. They really need you. They're going to die without you. So grieve and then adopt would be my easy solution here. Street Medic says, "What is deep reading anyway? I just pick a book up I want to read and open it. Oh no, you've got to savor it. You've got to savor the life-changing ways that these lessons impact our very souls." Oh, go God! No, God forbid you pick up a book just to enjoy it. Oh no, 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 no! You're in church. You can't do that. No, no, no. Books and knits and things because there are no annoying adverts. I especially love your channel, Steve, and your brain neurons. Jared Henderson is here. Beards are ridiculous on grown men. They are indeed. You've also said they're ridiculous on young men. I'm seeing a pattern here, and I don't like it. Well, I haven't said they're ridiculous on children because children can't grow them. If you're 60, then sure. If you're younger than 60, especially if you're younger than 40, then no, no. Jasper Antonelli, there he is. Why do right wing grifters fetishize Barron Trump? Is it because he's tall? No, no, it's not because he's tall. It's because he's going to rule America for 100 years. He's going to live to be 140. And he's going to rule America for 100 of those years. 100 years. And they know that, or they strongly want it to happen. And so that's why they fetishize him, because he's a king in waiting, a god in waiting. DT, what's your opinion on video games causing violence? I've never seen a connection. Never seen any science that says it's a connection. Wilson Shugart, mustaches can be very becoming on a young man. No, no, they're becoming until they grow in. Then they're no longer becoming. They actually are revolting. They're only becoming revolting until then. Dylan says, Steve, thank you for recommending The Waters. Strange to read a novel that well written and nuanced in the 2020s. Felt like a much older book. It struck me the same way. I mean, there's it kind of loses coherence at the end. And there are a couple of weird things, weird choices at the end. But I guess that's within the author's parameters. But I felt the same way. I thought, what is this? There's not only a story here, but it's actually really beautifully written. What is this? I'm curious to know, did you get it from the library? Street Medic says syphilis. He has discernible symptoms, most probably stage 2. That reading guy says, "Are you a Swiftie?" I am not. But if she throws the election for Joe Biden, then I am. I'll become one. Street Medic, there are only 2 reasons I shave. One is work. Well, I didn't shave today, but I do it regularly because I can't. I'm not directly connected with what it feels like, so I want to stay on my toes, so to speak. DT says, I live in another country, so that rules me out of hardbacks for reviewing. I prefer ebooks for most reading and reviewing anyway. Is that possible? Sure, it is. Yeah. Among other things, sure, it is. The best way to do it is to get a NetGalley account. And a lot of publishers on NetGalley will give you access to advanced to ebooks, eGalleys, without you having any reviewing experience at all. I shouldn't say a lot. Some of them will, enough so that I am sure if you went to auto approvals, if you go to NetGalley, set up an account, and say you just look around for auto approvals, look for the publishers that will give you a free copy of their book. Uh, they're hoping that you're going to review it for the site. That does them some good, and you could do that, but that will probably give you access to a couple of advanced copies uh, that you could review for me. You could review for Open Letters. Which is not NetGalley. It has a small audience, but a very good audience, an audience that knows what it's looking at. And then you would have something to say. You could write then a request letter to a publisher and say, I am so and so. I review books. Here are links to a couple of my published reviews, and I'm requesting this review copy. Then you wouldn't have to deal with NetGalley anymore. You could just do that. You need, in order to do that and have it work, you largely need some publication history, unless you're Joe Spivey. You kind of need some history. I'm perfectly happy to help you get that history. But in the meantime, there's NetGalley. That works for a lot of people. Stephen Bronstein says, how much of an impersonation of Ben McAvoy discussing Ovid? Jasper says, when I read, I just start at the first word and go to the period and repeat. Nothing deep about it. Oh, no, no. It's transformative in our lives. Slowly reading. He will never die. So unfair. Who is this? Who is this dying person? It's not unfair. Uh, I don't know what that's in reference to. Street Medic says, okay, I just got to notice you posted a video while you're live streaming. Now, I posted them before. Jasper Antonelli says, what about Taft's mustache? Surely you cannot object to that. It was so elegant. It was also 100 years ago. Okay. Jared Henderson says, I'm going to have a beard even harder just to spite you. I'm going to let it grow down to my toes if I have to. Street Medic says mustaches reach their pinnacles in 70s porn. Yeah, they're back on Instagram, unfortunately. Although only spottily, because quite a few of the weightlifter slash models on Instagram have taken gear so long they can't grow a mustache. So, or they can grow a scraggle one that would look terrible, so they don't do it. Let's see here. Jasper says maybe 70s porn is where Steve learned to fear the stash. That reading guy says, did you shave regularly when you traveled? No. Tolstoy 111 says Street Medic mustaches peaked with roly fingers. Street Medic says Shelby Foote had a great beard. Books and Knits and Things says McAvoy's cadence might be the result of the byproduct of Oxford Uni versus Essex County. What are you doing, baby? Come here. Come up here. Come on. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Come on, baby. Come on. No, his cadence is the result of him thinking that reading is a church, that reading is a religion. It's not a question of his university or where he comes from. It's a question of how he views books and how he wants you to do it. In case you didn't hear the difference, if you play his video back to back with mine, you will see a completely different regard for reading. Completely different. You will never in a million years hear me talk about reading the way he does. Never. Uh, Dylan says, I frequent a powerlifting gym and see so many 16-year-olds with bassy voices, bolder shoulders, and full beards. Disturbing. Yeah, the beards that they can grow is to cover the acne from the gear. And they just don't care. They all think about David Lade, multimillionaire by the time he was 18. They'll want that and they'll do anything for it. They'll mortgage any part of their health for that. Uh, that reading guy says, "Can we get a blob watch?" Well, we can. The bean is up on her shelf now, but it's not much to talk about. The whole country mostly is quiet except for Minneapolis. If I remember correctly, it's just Minneapolis that's getting any kind of action. Uh, let's see. Well, this will have updated. Uh, yeah, no, it's just Minneapolis. It's just David Murphy that's getting battered. Everything else is perfectly fine. The whole rest of the country is completely quiet, except for right there. And there's a storm system right there. Now I don't know what's going to happen. That looks too weak to me. That looks like it will die over the Great. Excuse me, over the Great Lakes. It looks to me like that will die rather than come here. So I don't think anything will come of that. But that's all there is. There's not much of Bob Watch to look at. Uh, Wilson is back. When I was at Oxford, the Dons would hit me anytime I lapsed out of Queen's English. No, darling, they were hitting you just cuz. We've all felt the need to do that. Choco says, hi, Steve and Frida. Jenny Park says, if you didn't shave when traveling, were you ever mistaken for a cryptid? There is at least one photo of me in full travel. I didn't shave because it requires extra things. I am very, very light traveler. Was a very light traveler. On the excursions where I only brought a few books, not my full complement, or I didn't have my foot locker, I carried only one bag over my shoulder, and that was it. Maybe a roll attached to the bottom of the bag for some sort of tarp to lay on or to lay under, but very light. And the more you add, the more stuff you're carrying. So, but there is at least one picture. God knows where it is or what's happened to it. Probably it's been destroyed. Of me that is virtually unrecognizable. I'm sure. Uh, let's see here. Colin says, I just started reading the Conan works. Recently started reading the classic Savage Sword series and have been enjoying it greatly. I find Conan has more in common with westerns than fantasy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, big time. Except for the ones that don't. I think a lot of Conan fans recognize that Robert E. Howard was made a lot of hay from westerns and really could not fully get away from it. So a lot of people recognize that. I think that's why the Conan fans tend to love stories like The Tower of the Elephant, that is conspicuously not that. Uh, I think it's because of that. DT says, Steve, why don't we like Johnny Quest? Oh, well, actually, Tolstoy 111. So you don't suck the marrow off the books you read. Leo Percara says, "Hello, Steve. Don't ban me from your TikTok, but have you read any of those RPG fantasy books?" I'm not going to ban you. No, but are you talking about the ones that say L lit RPG? I'm sure that's what you're talking about, right? I see those all the time, sometimes with excellent cover artwork, but I haven't read one because I don't know what they are. I don't. Are they taking place in some sort of against some sort of backdrop that you need to know about, like a new Warhammer 40K book, which would make no sense to a first-time reader? Or is it more like Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, where it's not going to be that much of a strain for you to jump into that world? I don't know. I don't know what a lit RPG book is, and I see them all the time. A lot of them are offered free in those ebook deal sites. I haven't jumped in on it. Uh, Books and Knits and Things says, Wilson, what did the Oxford Dons actually hit you with? Plimsoll, ruler? I think they were slapping him with something else to explain a lot. Oh, that reading guy says, how did BookTube get so influential? It can make or break a book's popularity. TikTok and reading mix like water and oil. Well, it's easy to look at these things. I haven't seen TikTok myself, but the videos are very short, right? So somebody gets on, they fake cry about a book that moved them. They haven't read it. It didn't move them. They don't haven't been moved ever. They're only moved if they run out of tobacco. But they go on for 30 seconds and lie like that, and everybody thinks, "Oh, that's what I want to feel about reading. I don't want to do the reading. I just want to feel that." And all that does what a 1,000-word review in the New York Review of Books can't even begin to do. Dylan says, about a week ago, my town, Tallahassee, got 9 inches of rain overnight. This upcoming storm season is going to be scary. I think so. The data that I have seen, I could be wrong. I am no expert. Considering how wrong the experts are, the data that I have seen leads me to think this is going to be a weak or non existent hurricane season. But that's not the only kind of weather catastrophe. Heat domes, I think, are going to be the number one story this summer. In all of the West, in the Middle West, in all of Texas, I feel so sorry for Randy Ray. And I wouldn't be surprised if super soaker storms like that are also a common feature. Hurricanes, I don't know. I'm not seeing that. But you never know. The season could surprise. Uh, Dorothy Satterfield says, who's your favorite German philosopher? That would be Sergeant Schultz. Street Medic says, I did get something out of Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book. What on earth did you get out of it? How to be a snob? How to read with your brain and uh, no heart, no feeling at all? Uh, Jenny Park says, I'm more concerned about the choice of books that Book Talk is promoting. Most are shockingly bad. So I've heard. See, the chat is tempting me when it comes to Twitch, but not TikTok. I'm not really tempted by TikTok, so I only hear it from rumor. What you doing, baby? Oh, ooh. Ryan says, what you reading tonight, Steve? Love the von Manstein discussion. We aren't Nazis. I'm a blameless general. What am I reading tonight? It's always a good question. I got periodicals earlier today. I got The Nation, and I got the New York Review of Books with Tom of Finland on the cover. How's that? And apparently he has an art show in New York, so there's a whole write-up about Tom of Finland. I'm still just loving this thing. I can't get enough of it. I'm just loving it, analyzing everything that's going on in an ant colony. This is just so incredible. And it would be worse if it were mostly prose with a few illustrations. I'm glad they made it this way. But when it comes to prose with a few illustrations, I'm reading a very similar book. This is fantastic, about what honeybees do, about how they communicate, and all the millions and millions of kinds of experiments that have been done on them. What do they do? The language that they have of bobbing and weaving and dangling their legs and whatnot, that is a language they invent. They extemporize it depending on new situations, new information, and they pass it on. They teach it. And experiments have even been done on how slipshod that language gets if you sleep deprive the honeybees, because honeybees sleep. Did you know that? I did not know that. They have a version of sleep, and if you keep poking them, if you keep poking them so that they wake up too often, then the next day when they go to work and they start communicating, their communication will be essentially the equivalent of slurred. And it just goes on like that over and over again, just a million details like that. Then started this thing. This is going to annoy the crap out of me, so just gonna bolt it tonight and get it over with, and then I'll stew about it until I reread it when it comes out, because this is next month. So I'll get the finished copy of this, and by then I'll have a lot of good stewing done on it. Uh, the How wars descend into annihilation. You have to keep in mind, wars descend into annihilation. What's the opposite of annihilation? Civilization. And you might think, all right, that's a pretty good thesis for a historian, until you remember that for Victor, Trump is civilization. Those are the two ends of the spectrum: annihilation and Trump. But this thing is on the agenda about medical experimentation. I have a long checkered history with medical experimentation. I haven't read this yet. Of course, there's this, which I'm still just living with. I'll give this another hour. I'll sort of square patch another hour of it. And also, there's this Children's Crusade, which I I dipped into the very beginning of it just for Oliver Koipel's artwork, but I think I'm probably just going to read and also sort of study the whole of it. I think I am. Although it's not for Epic Comic Book Wednesday. I just heard from Michael K. Vaughan what we're talking about on Wednesday, and it's a hoot. He picked a great one. Uh, let's see here. Wilson is back. He's responding to books and nits and things with witticisms. They hit him with witticisms. As a West Country boy, I am duty bound to point out that they're not plimsolls, they're daps. Yeah, you got hit plenty, didn't you? Yeah, yes, indeed. I'm feeling the urge right now. Let's see here. DT says you didn't mention if you liked the Nancy Drew you read. I never talked this much about her. Thank goodness for book people. I actually did like. I wish I could remember the name. Well, look up the list. If you look up the list of the first 9 Nancy Drew novels, I read the ninth one, and I did rather like it. I wasn't all that happy about how the writer just telegraphs in one line what each of the girls is like. But I was completely taken with Nancy herself by the end of the book, and the atmospheric brushstrokes that are done, very very good. Not all that distinguishable from the adult novels written in the same year that I've read. Thanks to the Brattle, I read a lot of them, and it's not all that different. She's very, very similar to the padded shouldered, gun toting mall detectives of the time. That was what really struck me is that that Nancy Drew book. I'm no student of Nancy Drew, but that Nancy Drew book could, with hardly any change, just step across the aisle into being an adult thriller of the time. Uh, Colin said, that said, I think my favorite so far has been The Frost Giant's Daughter. I love the folktale influence of it. Well, The Frost Giant's Daughter is not a big favorite of people. And it's another example of what I'm talking about, where there is no element of Westerns. A lot of Conan stuff and Cull stuff, they're basically Westerns and loincloths. And that definitely applies to a lot of the comic books and a huge number of the pastiche books. But Tower of the Elephant, Frost Giant's Daughter, these are real sword and sorcery. Jenny Park says 9 inches of rain is perfectly normal here in Scotland. Just you wait, just you wait. Where with the Americans in the chat, we're talking about the catastrophe that we're looking at this summer. That was what David and I kept thinking. We kept talking about that while he was here, thinking, well, you're gonna have to come back again, but between now and when you come back is not summer. We were constantly saying how in years past we would have said, yeah, well, there's going to be summer in between now and then, but that's not what it feels like. In America, it feels like, well, no, we're in April and then May, and then there's a cliff into the void, and we don't know what's going to happen. Fire seasons, hundreds of millions of acres consumed, uh, gigantic lightning storms, flash freezes in hot places, heat domes that last for a month and a half, disappearing water from aquifers, the end of the world. We're no longer saying, it's going to be a summer, it'll be a long, hot one. No, we're saying if we're still alive in the autumn, then you can visit again. Uh, but that's in America, but that's coming to the rest of the world. Obviously, most of the rest of the world's been feeling it before we have. Uh, Jasper says Mortimer Adler's book teaches you how to make any book that might have been fun incredibly boring instead. Well, you said it, and not me. That reading guy, good night, Stephen Bean. Got to get back to marking grade 9 essays. Make sure when you are handing out those essays that your students all watch my channel. Make sure they do. Jared says lit RPG books aren't based on RPGs. They incorporate structural elements of RPG video games into the stories. They have explicit rules for magic, gaining experience, etc. I think they are horrendous. What does that mean, though? They're not gaming manuals, are they? They're novels, aren't they? Don't all fantasies have rules for magic? Now you've got me more curious than ever. Have you read one of them? You say they're horrendous. You must have read one of them. Maybe on the next one that's free, I'll get it and see what I'm missing here. Um, Steve Bronstein says, Steve, you don't want to relish the most moving art committed to the page and stage from every age. I don't know what that means. I've already mentioned that I'm enjoying Boy Kills World. Books and Knits and Things says, Wilson, daps. Do you have any West Country accent? I'm currently in Cornwall. Oh my God. Don't encourage him. Dylan says, is responding to Jenny Parks. Street Medic says Kant is the best German philosopher and one of the greatest philosophers of all time. His response to Hume changed how we both look at perception itself, but his writing is so dense, I can't recommend it. His writing is so dense that it can't be recommended, and also he didn't do any of the rest of that. Slowly Reading says if they banned TikTok, I wouldn't notice. Never looked at it. Just YouTube for me. Didn't the House just pass a ban? Or aren't they close? And I think it'll move through the Senate. I think Joe Biden would sign it. I don't know what it would mean. Kind of weird to do. Don't tens of millions of people in America use TikTok? Suddenly it would not be there on their phones. Would it be gone from their phones? Uh, but I haven't looked at it, so I don't know what I'm missing either. Wilson is back responding to Jenny Parks. Jenny Parks says, we hoard the rain in Scotland. It's all ours. Dorothy's responding to Wilson. Street Medic says, if you want to understand Kant, read someone else's explanation, not his. Jasper says, Nietzsche was definitely a very smart and healthy man, very stable genius. Okay, don't tell me that the chat is now talking all about philosophy. That would, oh no, we missed 10 past the hour. How did that happen? God, this is so much fun. That's why. That's how it happened. Uh, Here, let's go back to where we were. Uh, I don't remember exactly where we were. Nietzsche. There we go. Books and Knits and Things. Cornwall has only just stopped raining 2 days ago. Dorothy Satterfield says she's looking for a German philosopher who was infertile and hairless. Wilson's responding to Dorothy Satterfield. Goodness gracious. Jasper says today it is 30 years since Saint Richard Nixon went to our Lord. I didn't know the exact date, but feels like just 2 minutes. Stewing about him. Stewing. I even stewed when he made an appearance on The Simpsons in The Jury of the Damned, even though I recognized while I was watching the episode how funny it was, how well done it was. This chair be high, says I. So I'm not dead yet. In fact, I just wrote an article for Red Book. I recognized how funny it was at the time. I still stewed. In my naive belief that he was the worst president in the United States that the United States would ever have. Street Medic says, I agree with Monty Python's philosophy about medical experimentation. Children first. Books and Knits and Things. Jenny, how is the wind where you are? You're talking to each other. You're talking to each other when it should be me. Eyes on the prize. Wilson is back. This is the first Stevestream I've been able to watch right through live. I'm having a ball, except for the host. Any way we can get rid of him? How dare you, sir? At long last, how dare you? Andrew says, great to hear that Deathlock is coming up for Comic Book Wednesday. No, it's not Deathlock. I wouldn't be crowing if it were pure Steve punishment. Not only is it a great topic, but it's one of those things where A, I don't have any idea what Mike thinks about it. And B, I think I know exactly what Mike thinks about it. We shall see. I doubt very much that there'll be much daylight between our responses. Tolstoy 111 says Clifton Fadiman did the Mortimer Adler thing a bit more cheerfully. A bit more cheerfully. A lot more cheerfully. DT says, how would you describe the experience of living in a book? I was about to flippantly say that I don't live in a book. I live in a house. But I did mention living in this thing, didn't I? And I guess the way I would describe it is when the book is a lot. When it's a lot, what's a good example that's right here? Okay, this is good, but it's not a lot. I'm not using the right words here. This is not a lot. This is a study of the Jewish ghetto in Venice from roughly what we can guess of its beginnings to the highlight, to the heyday that we know about, and then a few brief remarks on its gradual assimilation and disappearance. Okay. That's a small, domesticatable subject. The thing that will distinguish a book like this will be how willing the author is, or how willing the publisher is, to let the author go on at length, telling personal stories, because that's all this is going to be. It's going to be a string of personal stories. Firebrands, heretics, rabbis, merchants. It's going to be a story of that with stuff thrown in about a fictional character, Shylock. Okay, that's a book. And it turns out that this is a really entertaining book, but it's not a lot to take in. Do you see what I mean? Maybe not. I should develop terminology. You'd think if I'm going to make a go of this critic thing, I should develop terminology. But in my own defense, I never imagined I'd be talking about these things to an audience of imaginary people. Uh, that's not a lot. It's well done. I'm not slighting the book at all, but you can hear a one sentence description of the thing and largely get it. And then the book is elaboration. It's elaborated well here, but this is completely different from this, where the author is assimilating a huge amount of information, often information that is being assimilated, collated, and analyzed for the first time together in one place in this language. A vast amount of information with a subtle, patient spade work of slight reinterpretation. In lieu of all this stuff and how it juxtaposes with each other, what can we say about Zanlai? What can we say about him that maybe hasn't been said before, that maybe needs to be said? I, there's much, much more going on in here than is going on in here. Much more. And so I have to live in it. I can't, this thing I can get all at once. And I won't be wrong and I won't lead you astray. This thing I can't get all at once. No way. And I will be able to tell, and I would hope that you would be able to tell immediately in 2 paragraphs when this starts to get reviewed. This will get reviewed in all the major journals. The New York Times will do it. They might do it twice, considering that China is in the news. They might do it twice, once in the weekly and once in the weekend book review. The New York Times, the New York Review of Books will certainly do this at length. The London Review will do it. The TLS will do it. Everybody, all the major venues will do it. I don't know if a lot of American newspapers will, just the B-list newspapers, because a lot of them don't take reviewing seriously. Who are they going to find to do something like this for $50? I don't know who they will find to do that. But it's going to get talked about, and you're going to be able to tell in 2 paragraphs of one of those reviews whether or not that person has done that kind of a reading of this book. Because you could do this kind of a reading. Right? You could. You could get this thing and go immediately to Wikipedia. Get the arc of the subject and then just write that with occasional references to this book. Or which would work for this, but it won't work for this. This is a serious, monumental, groundbreaking biography. If you're not going to treat it that way, then I would hope it's going to be obvious right away. But anyway, that was a very long answer to your simple question. Street Medic says Nancy Drew was written by the same person under pseudonyms, so there's consistency. Well, I don't know much about Nancy Drew at all. I'm sure that Sarah at the Bookish Note knows a lot more than I do. All I know is the thing that struck me about that Nancy Drew novel that I read. I kept thinking about the Otto Penzler, the gigantic Otto Penzler volume of the big book of female detectives. I kept thinking how easily Nancy would walk into those pages. It would be simple for her to do. It would barely take any changing of the book that I read. Jenny Park says, wind has been fine today, but since Juno passed, I've been hiding indoors and only noticed the rain was heavy when I could hear it over the TV. Oh, you name your rainstorms, don't you? Colin says, would you recommend any history of the Mormon Church that is not LDS propaganda? Yes. Yeah, there was a history of the Mormon Church just a few years ago. We got it on this channel. What was the name of it? Oh my. It was quite good. It was a little bit on the dry side, but quite good. I don't remember the name of it. I might have reviewed it. You might want to go to Google and type in Steve Donahue Mormon and see if that calls up anything. Maximus Stedish. Oh, the chat jumped. As soon as it heard Maximus Stedish's name, the chat jumped. Let's go find him and see what he has to say. Fawn Brody did a resplendent biography of Joseph Smith, in my opinion. Books and Knits and Things says, oh, that's interesting. Read The Rain and Wind. Street Medic says, the Hardy Boys were written by many ghostwriters. Maximus Stedish says, I wish Bernard DeVoto wrote more about the Mormon Church. Jenny Park says, I think we get used to the bad weather that I don't even notice it anymore. Jared Henderson says, lit RPGs will sometimes literally and explicitly refer to the stats of a character or the amount of experience gained from a particular battle. It is like reading a description of video games. No. How could any writer do that? That's not even literary. That's not even something a bad writer would do. That's part of it. They talk about charisma points and stuff like that in the novel. Oh, oh. Uh, let's see here. Street Medic says Blofeld is the only hairless German philosopher I know. Books on Nits and Things. Jenny, similar here. Oh, you're still talking about the weather to each other. Street Medic says I tried living in a book, but it's not very roomy. Jasper says, do you like any of those how to read books? I've never found any of them particularly useful for increasing my awareness of what I'm reading. Reading critics and book reviews does that instead. Now, they're mostly not good. If you're talking about increasing the perception, your awareness of what you're reading, yeah, read critics. Read critics and book reviews and stuff like that. People are engaged in that. DT says, surely it's hyperbole when you say Trump and Brady bought wives. What's the mechanism holding her in place? She's his property. It's so hard to get the 21st century to even conceive of that. The 19th century wouldn't have had any trouble wondering about it. Monet Doyle says, good evening. Good evening, birthday girl. Balin321 says, what do you think about the Twitter debate about Nixon? Twitter seems convinced Nixon was autistic. Was he really that bad? Were you gladdened when he resigned? He was not autistic, and he was that bad. And I was glad when he resigned. Yeah, I felt good, fantastic. He resigned. Now he needs to stand trial. And then Ford pardoned him. Dorothy Satterfield is responding to Wilson. Steve Bronstein says, did you enjoy Bertrand Russell's self-help book before self-help books became a thing? The Conquest of Happiness. Not particularly. It's largely blather. DT says, Tom Brady buying Giselle just doesn't compute. She's a top model. Is it a deal that says someone else can't marry her? Okay. Tolstoy 111, Nixon had a considerable intellect. Even his political opponents thought so. He just had a lot of personal failings. Yeah, he was evil, I think is what you're referring to with personal failings. Jenny Park says, these streams are great fun for almost 2 a.m. Aren't they? Is it almost 2 a.m. where you are? Good Lord. Well, we're ending at 10 past the hour. I think there are 90 people here. We're ending at 10 past the hour anyway. I seem to remember that yesterday's Stevestream, the number went up high, like 90 or 100, and never went down. That feels weird. Jasper says, perhaps Nixon's biggest personal failing was committing genocide. But, we all have our failings. Well, yes, certainly. In a raw moral calculus, that was his greatest evil. I can't help but I think there was that what he did to the country, to the psyche, was also, I won't say as bad or worse, but it was really, really bad. I did his genocide is not the first thing I think about. Monet Doyle says book clubs should be reading books by Sarah Kate because there would be great discussion because of her writing. I don't know how in-person book clubs work. I don't think that I'd be very congenial with it. Books and Nits and Things says, oops, apologies for talking about to each other. Etiquette understood. You must not talk to each other. You must keep in mind that you are all losers. You must talk straight to me. Eyes on the prize. Okay. Jenny Park says, no, Juno was our 3.5-year-old German Shepherd. Oh, okay. Books and Nits and Things says, oh, that's so sad. Sorry to hear about Juno. Steve Ronstein says, do you dismiss Howard Zinn with extreme prejudice? I do, yes. He has much to answer for in the afterlife, much to answer for. The creation of a whole generation of dude bros. Street Medic says, read All the President's Men. What do you think of it? If you read it, I assume it's a reread. Jenny Parks says, oh, wait, nope, you're gone. Thanks, I'm missing her wet snout waking me at 3 a.m. to go for a walk. Creepypasta Goblin says, Nixon had a theory that the Roman Empire collapsed because the last 6 emperors were all gay. I assume you agree with this well-researched theory. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, of course. If you've got anything bad in the world, blame the gays. It's a really easy thing to do. Books and Nits and Things says, Steve, any opinions about Charlotte Bronte? Now, what do you think? Do you think I don't have any opinions on Shirley? Surely you don't think that I have no opinions on the subject. I do. I have lots of opinions on the subject. Balin321, lit RPGs were very popular in Japan a while back, called Isekai. They usually involve power fantasies. The common plot point is that the protagonist is a virgin, NEET, that is reincarnated as a hero. Isekai. Okay, I don't know what an NEET is. And when you say they were very popular in Japan a while back, are they not popular anymore? And they were popular in Japan, even given what Jared said about how they're including stats for the characters. Are role playing games, fantasy role playing games, popular in Japan these days? Uh, Jasper says, my first experience checking a book's bibliography happened with Howard Zinn. I checked his sources on Columbus, read them myself, and realized he was lying to me. Yeah, and that's before you even get to the American Revolution. Howard Zinn committed the ultimate sin of making me defend George Washington to a whole bunch of dude bros that couldn't wait to quote him. Yeah, you read him and then you read his sources and realize he is lying to you. Uh, DT says, thank you, Steve, for answering questions. Oh, I love to answer questions. Tolstoy 111 is responding to Jared Anderson. Uh, Nixon also signed off on a ton of progressive federal programs, and he was evil. Balin321, what do you mean with national psyche? I see it mentioned often. Perhaps I'm too young to understand. Well, it's not. It's only tangentially a question of being too young. I don't think it exists anymore, and the reason why it doesn't is because Nixon killed it. So it would be hard to describe it. Maybe it wouldn't have survived the internet age anyway. Uh, uh, Jenny Park says, we aren't losers. We aren't even real. Remember? Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Matt Sheridan says, imaginary booktube friend checking in here. Good, but we're leaving. 10 past the hour, and we're leaving. Miss Mooks and Nitson thing says it is 2 in the morning in Cornwall. Tolstoy 111, Zinn's view of history was so simplistic, it's no different from right-wing history books with an eagle and a flag on the cover. So Jasper says Zinn deliberately mistranslates Spanish on the first page of his book. Such a thick tangle of lies to trap lazy readers. Yes, lazy readers, lazy young men between the ages of 18 and 25 who have dodgy relationships with their fathers, which describes his readership 30 years ago to a T, with almost no exceptions. Lazy, attitudinal, too smart for their own good, tobacco addicted 18 to 25-year-olds who have dodgy relationships with their parents, with their fathers, and who latched on to Howard Zinn. And their kids latched on to Jordan Peterson. Just, at least Jordan Peterson, when he talks about history, even his fans don't think he knows what he's talking about. Matt Sheridan says, John Farrell's book on Nixon was fantastic. I actually agree. With that. But the book was fantastic. So we're on the same page there. Maximus Stenish says, did you ever find out whether Jill Lepore is writing a book on Taft? I never asked. I haven't inquired. I don't think I want to know one way or another. I'll be pleasantly surprised. Balin321 says the isekai moment was somewhat past, but I remember seeing so many anime and manga when I was a teenager, very popular. I know anime. Oh, are you talking about lit RPG anime and manga? Where's James Holder when you need him? I want to know about. Now I want to read one of these things, obviously. Uh, Dorothy Satterfield says, did you meet Betty Davis? Nope. Books and Knits and Things, that's a lovely mustard hoodie you're wearing. Well, thank you. Matt Sheridan says, does Chomsky have dude bros? There are people who really like him. Yeah, he's not a dude bro himself. And I don't think he really attracts dude bros because I first of all, he doesn't want them. And I think they have a third sense for whether or not that's true. But he's a parallel world of his own. I don't think he's going to live out the year. I don't know what I'm going to feel about that. Jenny Park says, that sounds similar to the term Ned Balin. Matt Sheridan says, yes, I'm a fan of the book, but certainly not Nixon the man. Good. Jasper says they just have academic language. I don't know who the they is that you're talking about here, but we have reached the end of the chat, haven't we? Which means that we should probably call it a night. Matt Sheridan says Hassan and Kyle Kalinske are Dubrow clones of Chomsky, in my opinion. They don't have two brain cells to rub together, and he does. He has an ample amount of brain cells to rub together. But I'm not actually sure what you mean by them being clones of him. Uh, uh, is it the tobacco addiction? Is that what you're talking about? Jared Henderson is here. The chat continues. We can keep it going forever. Yeah, no, 10 past the hour. Ryan says lit RPGs appeal to people who play video games and watch video game streams and find it easier to follow video game stats in a novel. So stats are actually in the novel? Well, now I have to read one of these things. Uh, Books and Nits and Things. Does Chomsky have an intrinsic linguistic device? I don't know what that means. Dylan says Howard Zinn to Jordan Peterson, they share hostility to truth whilst claiming to be objective, but other than Christopher Hitchens as a midway point, they seem quite different to me. Uh, well, I would exempt Hitchens from that progress. I would say that Zinn and Peterson are identical in the sense that they are. Now we have the word. We didn't when Zinn was in his heyday. Grifters. They have that exactly in common, and Hitchens no. Hitchens an opportunist, but not a grifter. Matt Sheridan says I meant wannabes of Chomsky. Yeah, but I don't know where you would get that impression. They're both idiots, and why would you think that? I don't get that at all. Maximus Stedish says bonkers. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I know that that's the word you have to use, but I don't know what that means. MWER, are you familiar with that Destiny streamer guy? Yes, I am. I'm familiar with him. Yeah. Talk about vaping. Good Lord. Steve Bronstein, Chomsky's videos are great when I'm having trouble falling asleep. Jenny Park says, we don't need Steve. We can chat behind his back. Now, we're wrapping things up anyway. It's been 2 hours. It's gone by like a blink, and I've had a blast. But Maximus Stenish says Chomsky and Kissinger are my favorite ASMR listens. Tolstoy 111 says Matt Damon liked Zinn's work, so how can you dismiss it? Yeah, Damon and Affleck fell in love with Howard Zinn. They're too old now. Their kids will be old. If they had boys, their boys would be old enough to follow for that crap now. And I bet they wouldn't like it. I bet they would see it for what it is now. But they fell in love with it, just fell in love with it so that you would, when they didn't think they were on camera, they would just windify it as if they were old, tenured American history professors. Just, oh, I know this stuff backwards and forwards. You ever read any of it? No. No, I know how to be cynical about it. Matt Sheridan, Kulinski follows Chomsky like it's gospel. Oh, I did not know that. Jenny Park says it's not long enough. We need more Steve and Frida. Oh, the baby's right next to me. She got up for a bit, but she's really kind of out of it. She always does this every night. When she's starting to feel like she's dropping off, she rebels and gets up and walks around a little to sort of say, no, the day's not over yet, but it is. It is. Balin 321 says NEET, not in education, employment, or training, meaning 18 to 25-year-old failure. Lit RPG protagonists are often NEETs, hence the power fantasies. Is that actually what it means? An NEET means not in education, employment, or training? That's fascinating. Is there a whole culture of NEETs? So are NEETs the Japanese equivalent of incels? Oh. Matt Sheridan, basically their view of America in the world is America's always based no matter what. Uh, Street Medic says Zinn and Ayn Rand, and then includes a cartoon of some kind. Matt Sheridan is responding to Jenny Parks. I agree. Granted, I'm quite late here. Well, it's late all over. It's time to wrap up the Steve stream because it's late. It's been 2 hours. It's been a great fun, but uh, but we're gonna have to wrap this up. You have videos to watch of mine, and then tomorrow is Tag Tuesday. Uh, and I'm strongly considering going to the Brattle. Strongly considering, if not tomorrow, then sometime this week. I don't think that little rainstorm over Minneapolis is going to reach here, so I don't think I need to worry about weather. I don't know. We shall see. But I will certainly do this again. Well, this was too much fun, so we will do this again maybe tomorrow night. Try to remember the headphones so that we're within reach next time. But until then, all of you have a good night. Thank you very much for keeping a crapulent old man company. This was lots and lots of fun. We'll see you next time. And I'll wrap this up for now. So have a good night, everyone. Woo.